Good morning, and look who's riding with the sun. I'm Neil Tagby, and welcome Sunrise Daily.
I'm literally riding with the sun. The sun is right behind me. I was going to say welcome to Lagos, but you know, Abuja is the new Lagos.
Excuse me?
Say that.
Sorry?
I'm tired of you. I hope I don't get into trouble today.
Yes, because you know you're right in our middle.
Oh, yeah.
Anything you say or do can and will be used against you, okay? Good morning. I'm not threatening him. I didn't do that on live TV. Good morning and welcome. I'm Mbamalu Yusuf.
Yes, it's so good to see Lagos and Abuja. Good morning and welcome. I am Bukola Koka.
All of them are Lagos. They're just...
Yeah, right?
And I mean, Cardi, I really don't envy you this morning. But hey, Lagos is a small, has a small geographical space. So does Abuja, so there is no boasting on your part, all of you. It's July 27. Welcome to the program. I'm Ayo Makinde. So guys, let's go straight to the papers this morning. Dr. Marcel Mbamalu joins us to take a look at some of the papers. He is editor-in-chief of Prime News Africa. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Glad to be here, Ayo.
Well, I'm not sure whether we should call this your alma mater. Let's begin with the Guardian newspaper. 60 days after, I mean, no one will argue with the Guardian newspaper on that. But here is the major story. Look at it on the front page. Tinubu toes familiar path as ministers may not resume till September. That story is on page 6. Of the Guardian newspaper. Do you share the same sentiment?
Of course, it's obvious. Guardian is right on that because, of course, I must say actually that this particular regime actually appears to be better than the predecessor, because I think it took 6 months actually before the ministers came on board. I mean, the previous.
But the list has not come. Aren't you in a hurry to make that conclusion?
Yeah, of course. But of course, we're talking about, we have the promise that by today or something it will get to the lawmakers, you know. But you know, beyond that, I think that it speaks to the fact that, you know, the same problem that we talk about, the fact that, you know, our leaders don't get prepared. It looks that they don't get prepared before they get to power. You know, people will look for office for a very long time. By the time they get it, it would appear that they don't actually, they weren't expecting that. I believe that for somebody who ran an election, if you run for election, you know, and won election, and even before you get there, before the election, you would have had kind of some sense of, you know, idea about who is going to work with you, who do you want to, because you already have your programs and everything in place. So we expect that our politicians should be prepared. Maybe they may have reasons for the delay, maybe the politics of it, the nuances and all of those, but nothing really explains why we should wait for
I like the
months.
fact that you have even balanced it all, like, okay, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, but hey,
it's lobby.
It's 60 days already.
Unusual times.
40 days to 100 days. That's also on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, road to 100 days. And 2 issues are already there. Fuel subsidy removal. Nigerians wait for palliatives. I guess you'll see the details on the inside pages of the Guardian newspaper this morning.
And from there, let's quickly turn to this Nigeria newspaper, which pretty much trails on, you know, the outcome of the sealing of shops in the southeast, Enugu State to be precise, yesterday, which occurred at the National Assembly. Sit at home, extradite Ekpa from Finland now. Senate urges federal government rejects plea seeking Kanu's release. Tasks security agencies on use of technology to track criminals in the southeast. I'd like you to speak to this, Dr. Mbamalu, the calls for the extradition of Ekpa from Finland as a factional leader of IPOB, and particularly also to Senator Oba's presentation on the floor of the Senate yesterday, pretty much speaking to what he's doing in his own local government in Anambra State, and of course to, you know, his subtle call for a second look at governors' what do they call it now, security vote, which could, do you think it speaks to what's possible if Southeast governors and indeed other governors are more decisive and introspective about the security situation in their states?
Yeah, I think the Southeast situation, I mean, we've been here for quite some time. You know, the Southeast situation is actually both political and security issue, and I think it's something that everyone has to, you know, we all have to put our hands on deck to resolve. It's not today. We know about the Nnamdi Kanu's incarceration, and we know the issue has been going from the previous regime up to this now. And then the sit-at-home issue, which, of course, the man in custody, I'm talking about Nnamdi Kanu himself, has said he's not in support of sit-at-home. I think the sit-at-home is something that thrives on fear, and I mean, talking about the people. And what the government should do is carry the people along, provide enough confidence for the people, provide enough assurance that there is security for people to go out. People really want to go out, you know, do their business, and that's why, of course, you see, partially, it's not really succeeding in some states. Talk of Anambra, talk about some other states like Imo and the rest. So I think that the governors in Southeast need to be better organized, need to come together, need to really work together. Security is not something you do in bits and pieces. It's something that is synergy. You know, you work with the people, you work to the grassroots, you work with the political class, and then you resolve the issues. It takes funding and a whole lot of issues. So
we hope that they can achieve that. When you recall a line where one of the former governors said, "There's nothing like regional security." Let's take a quick look at a few more stories. Panic in public hospitals as resident doctors begin indefinite strike. Of course, we reviewed that yesterday. And lastly, reps raise alarm over bandits' onslaught in Zamfara State. Let's leave it there for this Nigeria and head to Abuja.
Well, I've been given the honor of starting this particular one here in Abuja, and I'm looking at this one for you. Something is happening right here in the Federal Capital Territory. Suspense as NAS unveils committee chairs today. I hope we will start a conversation of juicy and not juicy committees. But let me quickly run through the riders before I pose the question to our guest. Akpabio Abbas get lists from presidency. Speaker under pressure to defer committee announcement. We have received Tinubu's ministerial list. Well, I see that you've already spoken a bit about it and what exactly that will be expected. But should we be excited? Because I know that there is no cap as to when the National Assembly should constitute its own committees, apart from, of course, the standing committees which the National Assembly would need to run, and they have already done a few. But do you think that we should, if this is a list, this list of committees is something that Nigerians should be interested in?
Marbe, thank you, Marbe. I think I would ask you that question. Are you really excited about what is happening in the National Assembly right now? For me, I'm not. You know, I think we should just leave these guys do their things and just move on, because I think it's something of disillusionment for most Nigerians who had placed some, you know, a kind of hope on the National Assembly as a kind of a balancing factor for the executive. We haven't had a kind of serious business from them for some time now. Look at the issue of campaigns for who becomes or who leads the National Assembly, how the presidency actually became the one to decide, or the people to decide who manages the politics of it, the campaigns and all of this at the presidency, who endorses who. You know, I think it's a joke, a huge joke that we've just seen over time. And for me, I've just not paid so much attention to them for some time now. Why? Because they need to do things extra things to convince many reasonable Nigerians that they are for business right now. Look at a situation where you know, a National Assembly, for example, a Senate, appears or comes across to the citizenry as being a rubber stamp for the executive, it can't have, democracy can't thrive on that. And I think it's something they need to do, something very urgent, very drastic, to convince Nigerians that we should pay attention to what they are doing. I don't care, for one, I don't care who emerges a committee chair on that or that. All the allegations, look at what has happened in the past. You have probe on this, probe on that, allegations of this and that. No one has a conclusive, successful conclusion. It doesn't come to a successful conclusion. Nothing. All the probes I've had, the committees do that. They just make some show. You heard about the off the microphone thing. It's not the same committee issue that we've had over there. So I think that the National Assembly need to convince us that this time around, under this new regime, that they are going to be independent enough. They are going to take the problems of Nigeria as very important and deal with them. So for us, I think we should be looking at other issues that are more important. Who becomes the committee chair of this or that should be their business until they set up and then come up with things serious. We'll begin to discuss. Let's see what they have to do. I think that's my response to that, Maokbe. I'm not interested. Are you?
Nothing more to add, my lord. I leave it at that. Let's leave it there for leadership.
Let's turn our attention to Daily Trust newspaper, and the headline is worrisome, really. Coup attempt. ECOWAS sends mission to Niger Republic. Residents protest as EU, France, AU condemn military takeover. It's long time coming. That's coming from diplomats. You see experts saying move can affect Nigeria's security architecture. I mean, they always say every news is first looked at from the local lens. So seeing what is playing out in Niger Republic, neighboring Niger Republic, I should say, the moves by ECOWAS chair, President Bola Tinubu, the meeting he had. What are your thoughts on this particular story?
Yeah, I think it was a very good moment, for a very auspicious moment for the president Tinubu. He seized the moment to make his comment. At least having Bunel appointed the ECOWAS chairman just a few weeks back, I think 2 weeks ago, or less than 2 weeks ago, and then this happening. He did what he's supposed to do, but to what extent ECOWAS can really enforce things in Niger Republic, it's a different kettle of fish. But at least politically, Nigeria has done what it's supposed to do by making its stance known to the diplomatic community that, of course, ECOWAS is not going to support a military takeover. I think by now, African countries should begin to understand that military rule is no longer fashionable. All over the world, it's no longer fashionable. And even though you have some peculiar situations in Niger, you have the same peculiar situations in Chad and the rest, but never. You can't have a situation where you justify a military takeover for whatever reason. So I commend Nigeria for making. I commend us, Alex, for standing up to symbolically show that we should be leaders, or we are leaders in the West African sub-region. So that statement is good enough to send the right signal. But whether it's going to change things or correct things in the Niger Republic as it were right now, I doubt that.
So we've had this in Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, now Niger. This region, the West African region, is being described as the region most prone to military takeover. So whether or not it's fashionable, I think the data speaks to the contrary. But clearly, it's still early days. We'll keep following that one and bring updates. That's the Daily Trust newspaper.
And I have the Vanguard newspaper here. I'll start out with from above the nameplate, some things, clearly landed on security note. Let's look at this. Senate demands Ekpa's extradition as Ohaneze moves against Dokubo. That's what they lead with. Then ISWAP beheads 21 herdsmen in Borno for ignoring ban on cattle rearing others. Another security-related matter, but legal as well. DSS berates NBA berates DSS, NPS for engaging in fisticuffs over Emefiele. Now, Dr. Mbamalu, without going any further, I mean, my colleagues have already talked about the other ministerial list. It's the Wike Edun, the names there, Oyetola, El Rufai, Edu, others on Tinubu's ministerial list. Lateef Fagbemi tipped for AGF position. Tinubu sends list of 43 nominees in today. Dr. Mbamalu, let's look at the list and the names that are supposedly on that list. What do you think?
Well, if there's anything to say, no comments for now. But I think that what Nigerians should be expecting now is a combination of course, there will be politics, but it's a combination of politicians, technocrats, and the rest. I don't think the current president lacks or wouldn't be able to blend that when it comes to. Of course, I don't have any fears regarding his ability to do that combination properly. But what should be of concern to Nigerians right now is the need to correct some previous anomalies, and that's in terms of balance in appointments and things like that. You need to do the right things and be seen to have done the right thing right now, given the way the country has been polarized, starting from the previous administration and all of those. You see a kind of ethnicity, a kind of religious issues coming up in what ordinarily should be public government affairs, and I think this government, of course, challenged by so many things, including litigations, controversy about how it emerged and all of those, but it has an opportunity right now to, through these appointments, actually create that kind of confidence by balancing those appointments, making sure that the composition of the cabinet, cuts across every sector, cuts across every region. The fears of marginalization can be assuaged at this point by the Tinubu government. Until the full list comes out and we see it, I think particularly the Southeast region, needs some form of confidence that this administration would consider them as key players in the scheme of things. So basically, for now, that's the comment I have to make. We expect that when the full list comes out and everybody sees it, that there will be a semblance of a balance in terms of composition, in terms of having not just politicians there. We need to see those who are capable of doing the job. We need to see the right people in finance. We need to see the right people in agriculture. We don't want square pegs in round holes. We want round pegs in round holes, square pegs in square holes. And that's what will matter by the end of the day. Not really about the personalities.
Okay, so the president also talked about one of the areas he said he was going to invest in is education. So you see that story there. Federal universities remain tuition-free from the presidency. The story continues on page 25. Now, in the phase of some talking about funding for education, university autonomy, this comes up. Federal universities remain tuition-free. And then you also heard about some fees that were increased in the Unity schools, all of that pointing to the fact that education might get a little bit more expensive in Nigeria. What do you think about this one, that the universities, the federal universities, are still free?
I think the government needs to come out clean on all of this. We still have a lot of hanky, maybe not the right word. We still have a lot of confusion about that. You see, some schools already, federal schools, increasing fees. Like, for example, I don't know how authentic it's, but you could see issues arising from that. But on the whole, I want to say that the government has to decide right now what it wants to do with education. Education is very key. I think it should be on the first priority of the government right now. What works you see a situation where you have the federal government opening universities, federal universities all over. Every state will have a federal university, have a state university, and then have some other polytechnics and all the rest. I don't think it's the number that matters. Government should decide what it can afford in terms of education and make sure that whatever number of universities that federal government owns are well funded. I think it should be the first line charge. Education, security, health, this should be the first line charge for any serious government at this time. I think that the federal government, of course, tuition free or not tuition free, we don't have any reason right now to increase fees for federal universities or even unity schools right now because of what we are passing through and what we are seeing right now. Of course, it will be very unfeeling, very insensitive for school to reopen in September or October right now, and then parents are made to, cough out perhaps 100% more for school fees. Look at what is happening with the fuel situation everywhere. We can't afford, people can't really afford to go to work. Workers can't, even if you increase salaries for now, or increase minimum wage, I don't think it's going to balance off the impact of fuel increase. So talking about tuition fee increase now is not a no-no for a reasonable and right-thinking leadership. So I don't think it's something for discussion right now. So government is right in assuring us that tuition fee is still there. It's not increasing, but let it be true. They need to come out clean in all of this.
Thank you, Dr. Mbamalu, and that's it from the Vanguard.
And very quickly, let's take a look at the Nigerian News Direct this morning, which pretty much focuses on what concerns you and I, everyone. Subsidy removal, labor outcry deepens as NLC plans another nationwide strike. There are a host of riders here. Give me more time to address grievances that subscribe to the president. Why we're yet to roll out palliatives? Federal government, court injunction in view as FG Mole's next action. Of course, that's in your face. And Abbas, that's the Speaker of the House of Reps, to meet resident doctors, others today. So there's a strike facing the federal government, two strikes, in fact, facing the federal government. One has already started, and the other one is by Labour, although Labour has clarified that what they're really planning to do is a protest, not a nationwide strike. What would you say to Nigerians who believe that, Labour is moving two steps forward, one step back? There really is no progress, particularly with the palliatives.
Yeah, subsidy removal, back and forth and all. I think the reason Labour gave in the first instance for stepping back on this strike it wanted to do was because of the politics. I think they alleged that the federal government or some individuals in government wanted to introduce ethnic sentiments into it. Of course, you look at the Labour, there was an election just happened, and the Labour NLC had somebody from an ethnic group that tends to be from that has the opposition leader.
Yeah.
There. So a lot of sentiments, were coming up, and they wisely decided to step back. But over time, Labour hasn't actually discharged itself very well in terms of how to engage the government on issues like this. So you don't blame people coming up against them to say they are not serious or they are playing hanky-panky with this. But I don't see anything wrong in Labour standing up against subsidy removal at this time, especially considering the manner the government handled it and all of those. I think that the first thing government should have done right now would have been to talk about refineries. Dangote refinery can't take care of our domestic need, obviously, based on the model of its establishment and operation. So I think that if we're spending all this much, palliatives or no palliatives, that's not what we need now. 8,000 monthly for homes. For how many million homes? Wouldn't solve the problem of subsidy removal or high price of fuel. What government should be doing now is to invest whatever money it can muster into making our refineries work and building a refinery. Good thing that the new Niger State Governor, Alex Oti, said the state as a priority, we'll set up modular refinery and all of those. Modular refineries, let every state be allowed to set up modular refineries, small as they are, and all of those. Even at private levels, the ones they have licensed before, what they need to do is to guarantee them access to crude, to say, okay, I'm going to give you crude. That was why the other ones didn't work. So right now, the solution to issue of fuel, subsidy or no subsidy, is to, and I'm going to come back to the issue of whether there was subsidy or not, but the issue, what the government needs to do right now is to allow refineries to work. Invest in the refineries, let them work. If possible, create new ones. Have a discussion with Dangote. I don't know how it's going to be, but let's see how we can solve our local problems locally and ensure that we have supply. If we have enough supply locally of fuel, we refine here, produce here. What business do we have with 500, 600 and something naira per liter if we are not importing it? The whole problem here is because we are making this product, we are importing a product that we generate from our own land. We sell it out and then we bring it back here and then pay all the freight, all the logistics and everything. And that's why it's very expensive. So for me, if you ask me to advise this government, I would say, first and foremost, state of emergency on refineries. Let our refineries work. If you want to privatize them. There was a time it was privatized, remember? And I think Otujara returned it back. When Obasanjo, when he was leaving, actually privatized it. I think Dangote was even one of those that bought then and all of those. But the government took it back. Federal government likes to take things, but they can't manage them. Why don't you decentralize governance? Why can't you decentralize a whole lot of things? Let things work. Seychelles, for example, has a population of over just about less than 100,000 people, a country, small country, but they have the highest per capita income in Africa, almost $20,000. The smaller the better. The way you manage your so when you decentralize and allow, for example, states to do things ordinarily we aren't able to do before, many things, generate money, be able to take care of themselves, I don't see a reason why we should be where we are. Refineries, let them work. I once again say that I don't see the reason why federal government should have control of everything. Just let states run things for you.
And what you said about modular refineries is instructive for most of the subnationals, but the question is, are they on the same page? Don't answer that one. There's one at the top of the nameplate. North Chairman, Zoning Crisis, APC Acting Chairman Lukman resigns. Let's leave it there for the Nigerian News Direct.
Daily Independent has this one on its front page. Fuel subsidy removal. Plaudits greet NLC planned August 2 strike. Mass protests. That's the lead of Daily Independent newspaper this morning. Labour begins mobilization for nationwide strike. Oh, really? Well, says 8,000 naira per family, 70 billion naira to lawmakers. Worst form of insult. I'll take you up on that. Tinubu solicits for more time to address NLC grievances. That's second rider. 70 billion naira to lawmakers, 8,000 naira per family, worst form of insult. I didn't even know there was financial insult.
Oh, of course there is financial insult. You know, it also speaks to the point we've been talking about here. You know, our politicians haven't understood yet that there is fire on the mountain. They don't understand that. No matter what you do, they can only mouth the platitudes of I care, you know, this my people, all of those. But by the time they still get there, it's still all about them. I think it's time that we'll sing a new song. Our politicians, our leaders should understand that there is fire on the mountain. People are suffering. I was watching a video of someone before the election was talking about if this happened, if this didn't happen, people would begin to eat themselves raw alive. How the economy would be bad and all the others. And it appears it's happening already. So I think that they should. Our lawmakers wouldn't have or don't have any business with whatever this money you're talking about right now, whatever comes out of this. I recommend that this issue we need a unicameral form of legislature right now.
You are asking for a constitutional review.
Of course. Okay. Let's cut down on this. Why should we give 70 billion to lawmakers?
Well, I guess we haven't seen the details of that one.
But remember I said earlier that we don't even need to share money. Okay. Whether to politicians, whether to lawmakers, or to Nigerians, invest this palliative in something meaningful.
Okay, I guess we'll wait to see, but very, very quickly on this one, you have 30 seconds.
Okay.
Airlines may increase fares as the dollar is now 792 naira. As the dollar to 792 naira impacts on operations.
What do you expect? It's already a known thing. They are going to expect, but the important thing is that we are trapped already. The roads are not safe, insecurity. You're going to fly, and you can't afford to fly.
Well,
so no movement.
It's a long one, and there are those who have already said that, look, to get out of the quagmire we are in as a nation, we have to take some very, very hard decisions, and hard decisions are like taking injection. It will pay you small. Dr. Mbamalu, publisher, editor-in-chief, Prime Business Africa, and former editor of the Guardian newspaper. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
Truly appreciate your insight.
Thank you.
And that's a look at the papers. We're back right after now to take on the issues as they come. Do stay with us.